So because we're on the subject of responsibility, and psychology of self and whatever, I want to talk about a book I read. I don't know if you can read it. Crime and Punishment. Yeah, the pages are gold. Okay. I like, Sophia, your last video was really good. It was all in one take, which I was like, how did you do that? You don't seem to have like anything written down, it just sort of flowed out of you. And that's something pretty special that I can't really do. I have to have at least a couple. Like, I think my last video that I made in the morning, this morning or yesterday, I can't even remember now. But I had to cut it down a bit because sometimes I need to slow down and take some longer pauses. And I feel like they'd probably be too long for people to just sit around waiting for me to say something as I figure it out in my head. So I don't really know if I should give it away, but I think most people are sort of familiar with this book, Dostoevsky. I loved this book, though. I read it. It took me a while because of school. I took a bit of a break, but about a month, which is a while for me. I read Notes from Underground and a bit of The Idiot, but then I took a long break again, and then I forgot all the characters and what was going on. But I'll reread that one. And other scattered things. I want to talk about the psychology of an individual, and what I think the biggest part of this book was. Raskolnikov, the narrator, he commits a crime. He kills two people, basically. He doesn't really process, I don't think, that he killed the second person as that's something wrong. That's just, it was an accidental thing, because he had set out to kill one woman, but then this other one came to the room afterwards. He's like, shit, and then he killed her. So it didn't really register with him. And I think that throughout the novel, you see that people are questioning him, they're going after him, and he almost gives himself away, but never exactly does. He sort of, in his head, he thinks, oh, they have to know, they have to have figured it out now, or like, what can I do to get myself out of the situation? And then he's constantly in this anxiety, panic mode where he's acting on a whim or irrationally, but there's always some calculation in his madness. So I think that the punishment the part of the punishment is not jail time or anything like that, which does happen at the end, but it's how he psychologically gives himself away, or how, well, at the end this isn't really ruining, I don't think, because this is such a famous book, but I think it's obvious as you start reading that you'll know, even within the first however many pages after he kills the woman, that eventually his mind is going to cause him to walk into the police station and tell them he killed these two people. And I think this is very interesting because, for me personally, I get into some very strange moods some of the time where my mind is just, I identify with the murder. My mind kind of doesn't really spin, but it's just it's almost like two people arguing back and forth, and it doesn't shut off, or I feel like I'm not really in control of the thoughts that are all jumbled around and trying for my attention, and then sometimes it makes me have these sort of very strong anxiety attacks, panic attacks, that would lead me to behave very irrationally. Like, I can just, at a snap of a finger, be like, I don't know, I can't think of an example, I wouldn't kill anybody, but with the circumstances Raskolnikov was in, he's like basically starving dropout student with needs more money to go back to university, you know, has a mother and sister, but they live elsewhere, and sister's gonna get married to this terrible guy, and he's upset about that too, and just all of this goes through his head, and he decides to murder a woman who he believes he should be able to murder. He believes that he is higher than the average person should be allowed to take advantage of the laws in ways that other ordinary citizens can't, so that he should be able to remove those whom he considers inferior or detrimental to society. And it's a sort of superiority complex, but I think he also has an inferiority complex. He's such a complex character. I love this book. I don't know where I was getting at with this. I didn't really have a point in this video. I just wanted to talk about how a person's it doesn't even have to be. I don't really think he had really a reason. I think it's just sort of a last-minute irrational resort that he tries to justify to himself, but then his unconscious, which he doesn't really talk about how or why he went to the police station. He afterwards he says, while he's in jail, he's like, I really regret making that decision to go to the police. I failed in my murder. You know, I'm not one of those men who can just murder people and, you know, get away with it. Like, I thought I was, that's why I did it. Why couldn't I do that? And I think he's wrong. I think he does feel the psychological turmoil that comes behind doing this, but it's unconscious. And this is fun because right now I'm reading about Freud in psychology. So I think that the drive to kill was a conscious thing, even though it seemed he has this insanity throughout the book of complete contradictions, and just you know, he smiles at people when whenever he almost gives himself away. He kind of smiles and plays with them, like he wants them to think he's a murderer in that second, and then he's like goes back and he's kind of terrified right after, or he's like, he feels threatened by them and he becomes irritated. So it's just intriguing. I just made a whole rambly video that did not really have a point, but this is an important book, I think, when it comes to understanding people's or criminals' motives for acting. I want to say impulsively, but it's a sort of premeditative, impulsive behavior. Premeditated. This is gonna be a great video. This is for Sophia, though. This whole channel, it's for us. I'm sorry, everyone else. I want to also talk about a couple other things. I don't know if I want to do it now, but there's not many people in my house, and it's quiet, and I have a pretty full weekend. So I figured, why not now? I'll stop this one, and you might have like 3 more.